Yeah, what's up, guys? Chris, man, NFTs, are they back, bro? Are we back?
Good morning. Good morning. I don't want to steal anyone's lines, but I'm hearing that we're back. I'm seeing a ton of speculation, excitement on the timeline. It's pretty cool to see. We have punks kind of flying. We've got historicals kind of popping off. It feels like we might be back. I don't know. What are we thinking, boys?
Well, let's talk to the man himself from CryptoSlam, which to be honest, full transparency, I am not what I would consider at all a trader. So even during the bull run of 21, I don't look at charts. I don't really look at numbers. I just kind of collect and vibe with stuff and communities and that sort of thing. But I know CryptoSlam was huge back in 21. What do you see right now as far as what's going on over there and trading and stuff? Has there been any uptick at all, or is this just
No,
our
dude,
imagination, bro?
almost the opposite. It's really funny. It's like numbers are not great, but I don't care. I'm still happy to declare that NFTs are back. They are. There's something different going on, and it's like some of this stuff. You're not going to see it in the numbers. You're not going to see it in volume. You're not going to see it in floor prices, but you certainly see and feel it in the energy out there, and you see it on the timeline. And you guys might even see it with engagement on your videos too. I don't know if they're up in the past few. There's these other things that are part of being back. I certainly feel it, and I think the turning point was a few weeks ago with some new mints minted out and start doing well on secondary. That was trying to think on base, the Pnux collection. I don't know if it's punks or Pnux, but that's selling out and doing well. CryptoKitties eggs, like those are the signs. Those are the signs, and those weren't happening a year ago. They are now. Something's different, and again, I think what's different is we're actually back.
Yeah, the CryptoKitties kind of surprise, super inexpensive eggs launch. Well, there's nothing like a near free, instant pump to get people excited, right? I mean, it's like,
you guys catch those?
What's that?
Did you catch those? Did you get to mint them, or did you miss them?
I didn't mint any. I saw it maybe during the mint. I did see somebody kind of tweet about it because obviously we're in like the historical community, and people were talking about it. But I was like, do I want to figure out my wall? I don't want, I was just like, so no, I didn't do it. How are they performing right now? Actually, how's that gone for them?
I mean, so I'm with you, where I'm not a big time trader, and I'm not looking at the charts per se for like a trading edge when I do trade. I just look there to see who's new, like what's popping up that I haven't seen before. And those are the trends I look at and feel like, what blockchains am I seeing in the top of the collection rankings, and how is that different from normal or the past few weeks, whatever the time frame. What was different was seeing them up there, right? Again, new collections that were doing numbers and putting them in the top 10. The peaking separately at average sales prices and charts, they cooked, man. Those things minted, they were cheap. I'm going to throw out random numbers. It was
like $15 or $10 or something.
There you go. And got as high as 0.31, 0.32. I mean, a pretty significant price. Again, just another sign that something's changing here. They've been cooking. They pulled back from that, I think 0.1 something, but they look great. And it's really more about, the community, though. They're excited. That's ultimately it.
Yeah, I mean, it's creating that excitement. Yeah, I don't know. It's always been well, during great bull runs, right? In 21, we saw it. Actually, we've seen it a lot during this like meme cycle. It's easy to create interesting excitement and narrative, right? When it's bad, it's really hard to create it. I think CryptoKitties, being that they're this like OG collection, they haven't done anything since, well, they made their own blockchain, right? And they did, so they did not that they didn't work, but they didn't do anything on Ethereum since then, right? It's kind of this like they could have done anything, honestly. Actually, have they done it with the eggs? I heard there was a bit of like a mystery of, was it going to be something else, or have you heard anything on that?
And yeah, I mean, I just hear from friends who maybe collected or just maybe a little more tuned into that specifically. A couple things. I think this is the start of I think it's Flow going like EVM compatible. There's something there. And then separately, maybe there's a game coming out that the eggs are going to be an asset in, some kind of one of those, mobile tappy games. And I was hearing Telegram. I don't know why Telegram, but yeah, that's generally what I was hearing about them, which sounds fun.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Because Flow, just so anybody doesn't know, Flow blockchain basically released their EVM compatible kind of integration on Flow about a week ago.
It's live, huh?
Yeah, I think it's live. pretty much and coincided with this. And so that's my feeling. Okay, is this going to be some sort of cross-chain thing? Or, obviously they want to bring people onto Flow, right? Would make total sense. So is this something that's what they're actually going to do? That would kind of be, is that what you're hearing, that maybe they're bridging them over there or something like that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was hearing. I'm peeking for eggs now. I'm kind of curious where they're sitting at. They're things have pulled back a bit there. They're almost they're almost down at the bottom, almost around 100.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So not doing a ton of volume. And again, this is why volume isn't really the best indicator for like how the market's doing. Again, we all feel that something's happening here. So just because eggs aren't cooking or your favorite project, I don't think means a whole heck of a lot right now.
Where are the eggs on? Do I see them?
I think all the way down, like maybe they're 98, 97, somewhere in that ballpark. I did a control F, so I could have been wrong.
Oh, what are they called? They're
Just
let's see.
Yeah, I got them at 99 on my screen.
Oh yeah, I don't even have them. They dropped off of the top 100 for me.
Yeah.
Hey man, it is what it is. It's tough out there, but that's one of those interesting ones where if you're a trader, you're trying to catch something, and it's kind of dropped off the. I mean, it's amazing how fast our cycles here are right now. Right, it's like literally, it's already stopped. Like eggs have disappeared from the timeline again, right?
Exactly. There's just a cool little story. Like, it's about the narrative and the story. It's CryptoKitties with their first mint. I don't know how their breeding works in the main collection, but the fact that it's their first new thing in years, and I think that's the case, it just makes them a little special. And especially, right now when there's not a ton going on. Again, there's new stuff talked about. There's stuff happening on maybe more like the protocol front, but as far as new collections, there's not a lot. So again, these are cool to be able to focus on.
What do you think about like I see when I look at the and this is interesting to me when I look at the top collections as far as I guess is total sales. So BRC20s are the top collection.
That's a spicy one.
Which is like hilarious. Is that common? Has that been like a common theme, or they've kind of pop in and out of being the top collection? How does that work?
It's both. And man, we people beat us up for that at times, especially when BRC20s first came out, because some people would take that and be a little misleading with their stories and say Bitcoin, ordinals or collectibles are killing ETH. And it just wasn't the case. But BRC20s, it's the stance of CryptoSlam. And it's interesting. Even on the team, we have a little debate about, are they NFTs? Are they not? And I'm not technical enough to be able to explain why exactly they are, but there's something, you might be actually, Adam, but it's something about the way they're inscribed actually makes them non-fungible when you trade them, when you make those bundles. And it's actually different from runes, because we don't count runes as these non-fungible bundles. There's a really specific difference. I wish I could explain why, but yeah, from time to time, especially now, the BRC20s will pop up there, but there was a time where it was like the whole top 10, 15, it was all BRC20s. It's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what is an NFT? Bro, we argued for a year about that and never really settled in the historic NFT community on what is an NFT. Basically, what ended up winning was basically any digital item can be an NFT, because you have things like CryptoPunks or sorry, Rare Pepes, which are basically fungible, right? You have the Nakamoto card. Well, there are 300 of them, right? And so they're not non-fungible tokens, right? And but they're clearly digital items or ownable, so we get into these kind of debates, while actually BRC20s really are pretty much unique NFTs, right? So yeah, I mean, but it is interesting. It's like, but is the intention as an NFT, or is the intention as a fungible token? And you could definitely make that argument that no, the intention is a fungible token, right? So you wouldn't necessarily want to include them on a kind of NFT listings or something like that, or kind of charts and stuff like that, because it's not an NFT. But you can make arguments either way, right?
Yeah, ultimately it's where, filters will come into play and you sorting things how you want. And I think that's where, things need to head. But it's just the data should be out there for you to do what you want with the data ultimately. So I was always happy to see him there. And again, it at least got the conversation going. Like you said, you guys had that big old conversation about what is an NFT. It's my favorite part of the space is the conversations. I just had one an hour ago talking about V1 punks, and there's the whole conversation around those all of a sudden again, which I love. but are they first? Are they not? Well, nobody disputes that they're first, but are they real crypto punks? Should they be valuable? Whatever. The conversation's fun, and we learn a lot from those conversations. So again, that's my favorite part.
Totally. It was like, I can't remember who, but it might have been Seed Phrase, like tweet. I think it was yesterday, tweeted out, nobody cares about V1, right? Which tells me he's got a fat bag of V1 punks, right? Because it's like you realize what's happening here, which is like, well, if nobody cared about him, you shouldn't be tweeting. Why would you even tweet? Which was my thing back when V1 punks kind of first popped up, which was back in like June of 21, when guy you might know, Frank, basically built a wrapper for him back then. Or no, sorry, it wasn't Frank. Frank did the newest wrapper. It was oh no, I forget his name, but anyway, pretty famous dev on crypto Twitter, built a wrapper, but nobody cared at that time. Like it didn't take off. Hardly anybody used it.
I didn't know this, by the way. I didn't know there was a previous rapper. I'm gonna have to dig into that.
Previous rapper. Shoot, his name begins with an F, but he's a pretty. He's got like 100 some odd thousand followers on Twitter. But nobody really cared, you know. And it was only later, after I think, the kind of historic NFT community like coalesced a little bit more and got their head around it, like what this actually was, which is from a historic NFT collectible standpoint, one of the, if not the most interesting kind of narrative in the NFT space. And once that second wrapper came out, then it got this like real traction. That's when like, the guys who have like 1,000 of them, got really involved, like put a bunch in wrappers, the sales started happening, opened it up, sold a bunch, distributed. And that's when it got kind of, had that pump, got exciting. And, I think, price wise, they might never overtake. They probably will never overtake the V2s, but the narrative is, it's incredible. It's an incredible part of NFT.
Well, I love that there's still that little sliver of hope, and maybe it's not even hope, but there's just this little sliver of a chance that it could. And if it happened, it would be shocking. At the same time, you'd be like, I get it. I get it. There is something special about him.
It's the provenance versus like community aspect. And yeah, I don't know. It's a tough. Do I think it'll ever happen? No, I don't. But it certainly makes for an interesting combo. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
And I think the thing that kind of triggered this off was the punk heist, as people are calling it, which I think I tweeted out earlier today, which is like, dudes love a heist story. Like all our favorite movies are heist movies, right? This played right into that. Do you have any kind of inside info on what happened there, or give us a little backstory on that?
Yeah, that's a fun one too, just because not fun if you held any of those fractionalized pieces of that punk. Fun just again to get a conversation going. Yeah, the TLDR, that was a punk, an ape punk, very rare, some of the most desired crypto punks, period. Fractionalized on a platform, was it Niftex, Niftex?
Yep.
Yeah, fractionalized over there. Website isn't up anymore. In fact, I tried to go to the site, and as long as I hit the right one, it redirects me to Kraken. So there's no front end. And with these fractionalized assets, and I've had some before, I'm familiar with how they work. People can make an offer on that fractionalized asset. So somebody can make an offer on that punk, and the holders then get to, vote, sell it or deny that, decline that sale. No front end. I don't know what their notification system then looks like. It sounds like there wasn't one. Nobody gets notified. 14 days later, the sale happens. Now, there's a little more to it, as in G Money, who holds 8% of that supply. He did realize something was happening with, hours to spare. Thought he did what he needed to do to save that piece, to decline that offer, and it still went through. So the story's wild, but again, it gets to another conversation. And part of that's, is there any responsibility here by the platform? How much time, attention do holders need to put into securing their assets, to stepping in when platforms go bye-bye? And again, this goes to so many other conversations, gets us to the known origin with IPFS, art. These are conversations we're going to keep having over the years, because it's a natural thing until we solve these things. So interesting, right?
Yeah, totally. I think getting to the point where we solve these is the key thing, right? It's like you realize, Jesus, like 98% of the stuff I own, I don't track. I have no idea. I don't even know where the wallets are, right? It's like dispersed, diffuse. We need the AI in here as quick as possible to like keep me safe, right? Because like I don't know where anything is, and I probably did some fractional stuff back in the day too. Zero tracking, right? And it got into that interesting question too. Well, is this theft? Is it code is law, which I think has pretty well been by most people put aside, where obviously if you manipulate something, although this doesn't seem like a manipulation so much as just people knew about it, it's just people didn't know how to stop it kind of thing. I don't know, it's very like I don't know, you had to have the one in the right space on some long string of Gwei number,
that
it's
was it. That was wild, and that's where it gets to. Well, if code still is law, was the code proper? Like, are they liable for maybe not having code that was maybe up to par? And that's probably not the best way to put it, but again, it just gets us to that conversation. Crazy thing too is, man, we don't have those conversations. We don't build those fixes till something goes wrong. Like the space is still that young, that is secure and stable as we like to hope this is. It's not there yet. We are actually still early, so sometimes it's good to remind people about that.
Dude, totally. That actually reminded me, as you said, that was Pride Punks, which is also kind of this historical NFT collection, right? Have a bunch of those, and they set up during the kind of relaunch because the guy Dennison who founded them, is a DAO guy and set up a DAO for it, right? Where he was collecting fees, put fees in. Anyway, there's I want to say there was 30 or 40 ETH in there. And somebody figured out, hey, if I can do this kind of put in a thing where I get people to vote for me, blah, 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 blah. And it was all of a sudden, people in the Discord was like, holy cow, this guy's going to he was basically like, hey, I get all the DAO funds and then I'll send you guys little slivers of the fund. Who wants to vote for it? And he had managed to get a bunch of votes, and he was gonna if we slept on it, thankfully the Discord was pretty active at that time still. And he told us he was actually doing it just to wake up the DAO to this vulnerability within the DAO. He was nice enough to kind of alert us to it. But he could, if he just did it on the down low, man, it would have been, 30 or 40 ETH in his pocket and nobody would have known, and that would have been it.
Yeah. Wow. It's good. You got a good guy actually doing that. Otherwise, that could have a really bad ending. DAOs are tricky, man. DAOs are, we saw, I'm trying to remember, it's maybe not worth bringing up because I don't remember any of the details, even the name, but we've seen some, I don't know, hostile takeover, malicious activities in DAOs just all the time. They're very difficult. I don't know if we've cracked that nut yet and figured out the right way to do them.
No, I think we're a million miles away from cracking it, right? Even the most well-funded, I'm thinking of Nouns DAO and stuff like that. Dude, people are people, right? And everybody's a bag holder, got their best interest. And most DAOs, it's people just stop caring about it. So basically it's a couple of people are interested. And if you have bad actors or whatever, it can be, it's definitely not figured out at all.
we're going to try to tackle that problem to a degree where we are actually launching a CryptoSlam DAO, a Slam DAO.
Let's hear how this is going to get hacked.
You won't get. It'll be interesting, and I guess I don't have a lot of details to share. Again, this is where me not being super technical comes into play. But it's going to be a DAO that helps manage the direction of honestly, content, data, what kind of maybe builders that maybe the DAO can fund to build products with it. There's some interesting stuff coming. We can touch on it throughout as much as you want. But
so are you basically turning the company itself into a DAO? Is that the idea?
It's definitely one of the pillars here. I don't know if you've seen, but if you go to slamnet.xyz, quite a few things coming. Slam Chain, Slam Link, the Slam DAO.
You guys have been cooking.
Wow, let's hear it, man. Give us,
quite a lot going on.
How'd you get hooked up with CryptoSlam? How long have you been over there? And
man,
real quick,
it's been a minute. Over 3 years at this point. It's just one of those things just kind of happened, just being in the space and meeting people and realizing how on the same page you really are and having the same vision for things. So 3.5 years or so at this point. It's been a blast. This is my favorite. So really cool.
Yeah, great to see you guys still kind of around and kind of really firing on all cylinders. So let's hear about some of the chains that you're building, some of the DAOs. What do you got going on?
Yeah. I mean, this will be pretty surface level. But the Slam chain, which is going to be a chain to host all kinds of data. And I'll even say not just on-chain data right now. We want to get data that's off-chain and bring it on. And then incentivize, encourage people to go build with that. Take your product, use data that's on-chain. Just it being on-chain adds an extra layer of trust to it. So it is important that data is on-chain for that transparency too. This is maybe wishful thinking, but my head goes right to prediction markets. I'm obsessed with those right now, obviously. Like, I think everybody is. They're magic. And they feel like everybody's saying right now, product market fit. There's maybe nothing better than that. Just at this moment, I'm like, take that on-chain data, all kinds of it. I don't know, Twitter data, put ESPN data on, all that stuff. Put it on-chain and start building out some killer predictions markets. It could get pretty spicy. But there'll be that chain. Slam Link will help bring that data on-chain. The DAO I'm excited about, having some experience myself. I set up a DAO for me and my friends to just collect with. And man, they're so hard. They're so difficult. Again, those challenges. This will be an interesting spin on it. Maybe people call it a little more centralized than they're used to. And that might be the case to start, but it will evolve into something that's traditional DAO, but hopefully a new spin on it and something that works. If anybody's interested, slamnet.xyz, the white paper's up there. Details again about all these different pillars, including the Slam Foundation, which has teased a token, a Slam token. There's a lot of little components to this, so it should be fun.
I'm assuming you're in the U.S. So how do you look at it from like a regulatory standpoint, right? Where, okay, if we're gonna, how are you gonna reward holders without it being a, you know, how do you guys kind of view that right now?
It's tricky, and I'm thankful, you know, hands-on directly we're not, you know, luckily it's the Slam Foundation that's doing it, but Animoca is helping us too, and so we've got great guidance throughout this. So they've been a key partner, and I think that's what gives everybody the confidence that it's being done as carefully and safely as it needs to be.
How big is your team over there? You have the foundation, you've got everything rolling. How big is your operation?
It always changes. It really does. It really, I mean, just startups. I mean, we've been at the most. Yeah. I think we got up to like 80 or so, which was wild. That was
really, you have 80 people over at CryptoSlam.
Wow. At one point.
No way. That is crazy.
Jesus Christ.
We were cooking for a while. It was really cool. Wow. And obviously things changed.
What a team.
Yeah, I appreciate it. The kind
80 is a huge number. That's a massive number.
A lot of devs.
You need that Animoca funding when you got 80 bodies.
Yes, sir. Yeah. But yeah, again, a bunch of devs. On the marketing side, there was a lot that was happening. Yeah, it's just that we needed it then. We don't need it now. We've integrated so many chains at this point, and a lot of the systems behind the scenes built, upgraded, automated to a great degree, and it's helped us really pare that back. But dude, I've never worked for a startup before. It's been such a blast to not only learn Web3 in the tech here and get to know the people and how the business works, but again, just to be in a startup, the energy is unlike anything I experienced before. It's awesome. Yeah.
Every day is something different. That's for sure.
That's right.
Maybe you guys have it. Maybe I missed it, or I always thought that you would go this route. Do you have like back-end proprietary data dashboards, or I always thought that maybe you'd go like more of a subscription premium data route. Do you have any plans for that, or you guys have maybe specific dashboards that aren't necessarily public facing that you guys use internally? Just, I mean, you track so much data. I'm sure that there's a bunch of crossovers that you can do.
Well,
any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's another great question. I can definitely say I guess the data you see on the site is a fraction of the data that we have. Sure. I mean, anything on chain, we have it. What can I say? Yeah, there's a lot more data behind the scenes. I always imagine going the dashboard route too in some type of pro model, and I have a feeling it will go there to some degree. But you know, with all these pillars and new components, the kind of rebirth, the CryptoSlam that's coming, what I like to say is it's like us getting more Web3. I think we want to, again, encourage people to go build those dashboards on their own using our data. And I think that's probably the direction you'll see it head. Now, on our side, I think there'll be some pretty cool buffs and there will be some things that turn heads. I could maybe say probably not just, you know, NFT type data.
Nice.
So that'll be fun. But yeah, I want to see all kinds of wild dashboards out there that people can customize how they want. We started working on for a time last year an LLM, right? This AI chat. Oh man, that blew me away. Being able to search for on-chain data just with a prompt, with a command to, you know, I use ChatGPT all the time now. To be able to do that with blockchain data will save you hours and hours and hours. It's probably more than that. It's ridiculous the amount of time you spend researching stuff. To cut that out by just sending a quick question command prompt is wild. That's something I'm not sure if our devs are continuing that right now. I wouldn't be shocked if they are, but that, whether it's us or somebody else, taps into our data and builds it. Magic.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
One thing was that, I mean, obviously at Emblem Vault, like metadata for all of these collections is just, I mean, it's like nightmare, right? And you see a little bit of siloing, you know, like on Bitcoin, where certain marketplaces, I'm not going to mention them, but people will apply or give their metadata to them, but then it's not readily shared with everybody else. So you got to like approach the individual collections. It's a real pain, right?
Yeah.
How do you guys like look at that? I mean, is it, you know, well, how do you look at it? And so is part of what you're envisioning with this chain is, since you're doing all that work, you're going to like basically become the hub for all of that?
Yeah, there's an element to that. By the way, I really love hearing somebody else who understands that side of it. You know, most people look at the dashboards on CryptoSlam, and there's, I mean, rightfully so, no understanding of how it gets there, and it takes a lot, and metadata is always tricky. It's why some collections on the site look different from others. Like some are more robust. They have all the traits. They have everything. The traits all look the way you were expecting them to, how they looked on Magic Eden or you know, whatever your favorite marketplace is. And some don't. Yeah, it's still the Wild West out there. Believe it or not, it's still the Wild West. And I know you guys know that. So ultimately, I'd still say, I think, how will that work? Ultimately, I think it's going to be similar to how it is now. People take the data, tap into the CryptoSlam chain, take the data, and they're going to have to, or we are going to have to come up with some kind of solution. Doesn't mean there isn't one already, but
there is one already.
Do you say is not?
No. This is like, I mean, I think we've talked about it quite a bit. That we think there's actually it's possible, and it usually my business sense tells me that there's going to be like one winner, like who wins the Web3 metadata race. It'll kind of coalesce around one winner, just because of the way, you know, stuff works like that. And, you know, it's like, if you have the most data, people are going to use you. So then you have the resources to go get more data, and suddenly you're the kind of data provider. And no, I think, you know, there's a deep need for anybody building anything to have this, because it's such a time suck and a resource suck to try and build it out yourself.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the amount of time we spend on it. It's tremendous.
Yeah. I like that idea a lot, though. It just makes sense. We're so PvP right now. And so it does make sense why everybody's doing it their own way. Everybody wants to carve out, you know, their lane, but also be the standard. So it makes sense. But oh my goodness. Yeah. I can't wait till we're maybe a few years down the road and it is all of us kind of marching in the same direction.
Well, the oracles about this, and this is interesting too, with like the you know, prediction markets. And I think, did we have a prediction market guy on I don't know, a couple weeks ago or whatever, but
yeah, we did.
Talking about okay, well, how do you, these oracles, because really you're bringing off-chain data, and I'm using air quotes if people aren't watching right now, because sometimes this data is fuzzy. It's not hey, the Nets beat the Knicks you know, 100 to 98, and we have a clear like number. It's, did Trump say cat? And well, no, he didn't say cat. He said cats, right? Or whatever, you know, and it's like, well, how do you do this, right? And how do you kind of triangulate information like this? How are you guys looking at stuff like that, which isn't like just necessarily clear-cut data, where it's more like information and you have to process it?
Yeah, dude. I really wonder. Because at the point where it's on chain, it is, you know, kind of very black or white at that point, right? So I don't know. I really don't know, because some of that stuff, if it's always going to be subjective, who's the decision maker? Maybe the DAO is. And maybe that's actually an interesting way to solve it. The community votes. Yeah,
people have that's kind of proposed, where it's like you have either nodes or different. I mean, obviously, it's with like data. It's different data sources. Okay, you're using ESPN, and you're also using whatever CNN, and you're comparing the sports scores there, right, to make sure that they have you know, the right information. And it's complicated, and there aren't necessarily easy answers. It's going to be, I think that's where it's almost wide open, where, you know, if you're able to do it in a way that makes sense for people and they click with, and then they use your product, you have a chance of winning, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. So when do you think you guys are going to roll some of this stuff out? What's the kind of timelines for this?
So some of this was going to start. Part of it's in progress. I could probably put it that way. We released some NFTs over the past maybe 6 weeks. It's actually relatively new, and these NFTs are on Solana, and they're just a piece of the puzzle. There's just a lot. And again, I wish I could say more. We will start getting people on some more shows to really get into this stuff. But when? Like really soon? Yeah,
Okay.
I could say really soon. Probably as best as I could do right now.
Like NFTs to own the DAO and then that sort of.
Yeah. NFTs have a big tie-in with the DAO, and there'll be different titles there, and yeah, I think that's probably a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Stealth mode, man. Stealth.
Yeah, dude. I'm like, man, should I bring it up if I can't get into in depth with it? But yeah, why not?
So you guys are doing some stuff. So it should be.
Makes
I mean, we are coming. It feels like to me like we still have, depending on the presidential elections, maybe, but we still have a real bull cycle in us. So maybe you'll.
It really feels like it, doesn't it? And I wonder how much that's going to matter. Like on one hand, I thought Trump winning means game on, and I still do think that, but more and more, I'm just hearing price of Bitcoin probably won't matter who wins, right? But it's more about building. I think that's really what's going to matter there. Trump wants to be very pro crypto to foster building over here. Have this what does he say? Like the crypto hub of the world, something like that.
I love that. Yeah.
Isn't that great? Talking like that. Yeah. That's what I want to hear. I'm still waiting, by the way, for any of them to make any kind of policy clear on crypto. It's a lot of teasing, and I don't think we've gotten anything yet. But certainly there's a degree of waiting and watching how that plays out to know some directional things.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine if it was like, okay, actually, you guys can we won't even call them securities anymore. We'll just call them crypto. And you want to offer, NFTs, and those NFTs get rewarded from your DAO for profits. Fantastic. Do that. I mean, how amazing would that be?
Right. No, exactly. What was we had SEC news a couple of weeks ago, right? Was there a project that it's OpenSea? My goodness, right? It's really difficult to build in this space right now when you don't know when something is coming and from who and how serious it is. I mean, still Wild West, and we're early, all that stuff applies, but it hasn't really changed in the past few years. It hasn't. And we feel like we're right on the cusp of it changing enough that there's some direction that people have going forward. So man, I can't wait. I can't wait to just get that couple inches further, because it'll matter a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, anybody of any size in the US has been sued, right? And that's not cool, right? I mean, you guys are obviously, I didn't realize, hey, people, you're pretty large. So, you're worried that you're in the
much smaller now, by the way, much smaller.
Maybe smaller now, but still, you're worried you're in the crosshairs, right? And so that's why, you're worried about doing a DAO, you're worried about this. You shouldn't have to worry about that, right? You just should be able to do it. As long as you're not defrauding people, like that should be the thing. It's like, if you steal from people, you go to jail. Can we all agree on that? Yes.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're doing things in good faith, you're actually a good actor. You shouldn't have to do all this sort of stuff.
Right. Yeah. Don't penalize people building and actually doing some really innovative stuff in this space. And there is a hell of a lot of it. So, but these people need direction. They need these guidelines too, so they don't accidentally go over a line that they didn't even know was there.
Exactly.
So we're all looking forward to it. How do you think by the way, SEC and their crosshairs on this space, and again, the OpenSea thing from a couple of weeks ago, do you think that's the worst of it? Do you think there's more of that coming?
I think it's going to get much worse if the current administration stays in power. I think it's going to get much worse.
For sure.
I think they see it as an existential threat to them, and it is. Crypto is, right, and so I think it'll get much worse. I'm hopeful it won't. I think the Bitcoiners are kind of right that, or at least some Bitcoiners, that if current administration stays in, Bitcoin will pump, but the rest of crypto, it's bad news. And so that's the worst case scenario. I'm hopeful it doesn't happen, but who knows, man? You never know.
It's like, man, I could put on my tinfoil hat, or I can activate doomer mode, but like, man, it is such a major power shift that comes with this tech. It really is. Both the financial side of it, but also again, just the structures and kind of not community, it's the wrong way to put it, but just the way you really can rally people behind this tech and anything, a movement. We go to war over things that are very similar. So, I mean, it's scary, and it shows you how much they do want to protect, what they have, what they already kind of control.
Absolutely. We had Amir Taki on yesterday. It was like this privacy OG. Like
That was great, by the way. Yeah.
he was there at the birth of Bitcoin kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, he's like very much on the side of, what I would consider like doomer mentality, but you understand that, like, dude, it's just been like thrown in jail. Like he you look, I mean, all you got to do is look at the history of Bitcoin. Like almost anybody who spoke out, like landed in jail, right? And you see every single platform in the space, if you got to any size, you are either in jail or you're being sued, right? It's just everybody. So, can we get the boot off our neck? I'm hopeful, man.
Yeah. And if we don't do it here, as we've been seeing, is the builders move elsewhere. And man, that's so unfortunate.
So stupid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible, man. It's terrible. But let me get back to, I want to look at some of these NFTs now, because it's like now that I'm on your site,
It's so good.
It's so funny, dude. Like, I mean, Chris probably knows about these ones and stuff too, but I'm like, what the hell's Star Atlas Crew? And I see all this stuff, and I'm like, but then I see ones.
That's a good one. That's a good one. So Star Atlas raised like billions of dollars in 2020. They raised billions of dollars. They've been MIA, not MIA, but they've been building. They've been building for many years. They haven't really shipped anything. But what do you think about Star Atlas data, actually? What do you think about some of these major sales that they have from time to time, and then they go completely quiet on the timeline, have a major sale? What do you think is going on over there, or maybe just in general?
Just guessing around, but like it's a game, right? I think it's a
Yeah.
really big space game, which is cool as hell. I've always been waiting for somebody to build like an EVE Online type of thing here in space or whatever. Maybe that's them. Usually when I see that kind of stuff, I think big expansion dropping or big old ships that are being sold. And I don't go that much deeper. I just seeing them there tells me something happened. And if I were interested,
same as me, then just kind of waiting in the water. Another one that caught my eye, I looked at it last night, I see that it's still on there, was Axie Infinity. There was a $20,000 sale right at the top on Adam's screen over there. What any thoughts there? A revival of maybe some Axie Infinity, or I haven't tracked it.
They still cook, and they still got some hardcore like OG degens there. They do. They always will. They always will. Like special thing.
Brought back some memories for sure.
Dude, I can't wait for them to have a big time resurgence. I hope they do. Yeah. But great guys over, like the team over there, Sky Mavis are amazing. Like just the Ronin ecosystem is just amazing. It's one of my favorites, to be honest.
Because they launched their own chain, right? They crushed with their own chain, right?
Yeah.
They have the Ronin chain.
Yeah. My younger brother works with the CyberKongs, and I've got this like extra affinity for Ronin because of that. So just everything. I'm a Ronin maxi at this point.
That's interesting. You have such a good perspective on the entire industry because you just aggregate so much data. Is there anything that kind of sticks out? So here we are in 2024. NFTs have gotten demolished for the last 3 years, right? We're on the precipice of regulatory clarity, hopefully, potentially. Everything's down 95% across the board. Anything that's catching your eye that you might be looking at, or kind of that you think is interesting, or kind of an outlier, whether it's Base or Solana, or and anything kind of that sticks out to you that you want to chat about?
It's, I'm one of those guys who does think like a super cycle could happen, happen. And if so, you have
to plan for that, right? That's
to a degree. It's just, there's gonna be magic everywhere. And it's cool that each of these chains is really carving out, its own like flavor of products or whatever. It's fun. Solana's turned into this meme coin thing. Those NFTs will cook again too. Bitcoin is like where my heart is. Like Bitcoin collectibles is it. I think what's going to happen there could, I don't know. It could be the main focus of the cycle.
We're probably on that boat. I am for sure. Adam, what do you think?
I just can't get over. I'm looking here. I mean, it's so I should, it's one of these things. It's like there's so much overwhelm. I don't even, I can't track stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here, I'm looking, and I'm like, look at this, man. It's like I look at Wax, right? Like Wax blockchain. Nobody even probably know. I mean, I know what Wax is because I have people, but dude, their total sales, 24-hour sales, $8,000, bro. That's zero. Tezos, which is like Tezos, man, was like this beautiful, like art first blockchain. I remember Hickenuk, right?
The best.
$7,000. Yes.
Yeah.
$7,000.
That's
like,
rough. That's rough.
And I can't wait for those things to bounce back and become, magical like they were. And I bet they still are. I bet the people in those ecosystems feel that. And, those are the guys with conviction. And usually those are the guys that win big. So I'm rooting for all of them.
For sure.
I'm that guy on tape.
Cardano was $2,000.
Cardano was 2,000. It was less than Wax.
Dude,
this is rough.
That is so rough.
There's usually things that stick out that maybe don't to other people. Okay, so we're used to the big name projects that we're familiar with, and we're usually going to the collection rankings here and just peeking at how they're doing. Again, when I look, I'm usually seeing what doesn't belong, what seems out of place. What have I never seen before, and all of a sudden is number 5 or 10 or whatever. I start finding some of the craziest transactions out there. There's a lot more money laundering than people realize, and because you could almost look at this like a blockchain explorer, it's going to show it until we maybe remove it. There is so many wild ways people are moving money around. I'm not going to throw accusations here, but like Lux Marathoner, I don't know about that one. I'm not so sure.
Which one's
that's number 5 on the collection rankings.
Marathoner, yeah. What is Lux Marathoner on BNB? So this is collection.
I mean, it looks like it's one sale without having clicked in, but it looked like it was one sale. I tried searching for it and I find nothing. And there's just all these stories. We had for a while on Polygon these base NFTs. Excuse me, not base. Vase. They're vases. They're digital vases. Did you see the story back?
I was watching him. Yeah, the founding team was just sloshing those things back and forth at the foundation. It was insane.
It was a ton of. If it's these specific ones that you saw too, digital bases, we ended up meeting with a team and saying, "What's up with these? Like, what's going on?"
You met with them. What did they say?
They just said in China that this is just something people are really into collecting. Like they insisted it was legit, but they would happen every 31 days, and 30 days was the window where it had to be reported for taxes. So I'm like, we're gonna remove that.
And this is funny. This was. I'm sure it was probably related to money laundering too, but it was really when Solana and their NFT kind of ecosystem was really booming. And so there was a lot of kind of bad blood between the Polygon ecosystem and the Solana ecosystem.
Hate each other.
And then so they would always boost their volumes with these vases. And they would be like, oh, look, we just doubled Solana's NFT volume. And it's like, no, you have 3 vase sales for like $6 million each, whatever.
Those guys,
like, so obvious.
It's really like, to speak to how much they went at each other. They went out of their way to try to reach us to report when the other one had wash sales on the platform, and they blow up Twitter with it. And man, it goes
the full route all the way back to the data provider. That is awesome.
It was wild. Polygon has a lot of that kind of stuff. It's like, I always make sure that people understand it's not a Polygon issue. It's not Polygon. It's the cheap fees there make it easy for people to do that. But
exactly,
Polygon almost on a daily basis gets these collections, and the description of them when I check OpenSea, it's like, hold X number of NFTs and you'll get 1 USDT per day. And it feels like money laundering. It doesn't, especially then when you start seeing these $7,000, $10,000, $15,000 payouts just rolling through the activity. And again, almost daily new ones of those pop up. So I like looking here just for insights into that, and then looking at the wash sale numbers. I probably use the platform not quite like everybody else. I just try to see like what kind of shenanigans are people up to, and usually something.
And there's always some on-chain shenanigans, huh? There's no lack of that in this industry.
Never a dull moment.
But it's cool because you could see, for example, I'm looking at Courtyard. We've chatted with those guys a bunch.
For sure.
Good to see, those, still moving on a daily basis, getting traction, real world assets are awesome. But then I look over in the blockchains, right? And this is where it gets very interesting to see this. And obviously you mentioned the Lux Marathoner, which is BNB. So I lean into, okay, well, this is a bunch of, wash trading and stuff. But then I see like Panini, which is like the cards they make, like my kid buys them every World Cup, right? It's like the football cards and stuff. And wow, there's only $8,000 in sales over there, right? And and I don't know, but I can see just by looking at it, like this is a huge brand. Like this is a massive brand. But I can basically guarantee without even looking that they just dumped millions and millions of NFTs on the market, and now nobody gives a shit, right? I just know it without even looking. I know that's what happened, and nobody cares about these NFTs anymore.
Yeah.
It's dead.
And I
Yeah.
think they lost like a deal with the NFL. I feel like I saw that maybe past 6 to 12 months. And so yeah, maybe they've been struggling and also I'm so obsessed with like collectible cards and stuff. So like I love them like as far as the product. Dude, I bought an NBA Top Shot moment like a week or two ago for the first time in
No
years. Yes,
way.
sir.
I
Caitlin
feel like
Clark
those are
rookie
kind of
card.
have. What's your thought
Okay.
on that?
Moment. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. What was that, Chris?
What's your thought on Top Shots? We see them come and go. They have these like mini waves that are kind of maybe particular to them. I don't really see a ton of communities have these random revivals every few months. I feel like I see that in Top Shop. There'll be, I think there was that Wemby sale. They had a big Wemby sale, right? And that kind of revived a bunch of stuff. What's going on? Are they back? Are you paying attention to them over there? Is it just collector for you? What are you thinking?
Yeah, who knows? Like I've always collected, always. So like, if their operational costs are low, I just hope they can continue forever. I really do, because to me, if they can continue for decades, there's no way these don't come back. I mean, certain things, right? Certain of those collectibles, but
I mean, they made so much money. They must have infinite runway. I mean,
yeah,
talk
for
about just surviving. They should have runway for the next 200 years. For
yeah,
everything.
plus it feels like they're just starting to, in the past, maybe a year or so, like crack the code of like utility for sports collectibles and like building out, if they can get here, like a full-on fantasy sports, kind of aspect to it, like Sorera's doing. Like if they can get there, man, it really could be special again.
I
Like,
think the product
maybe
is
some of
amazing.
it's-
I mean, I love Top Shot. Having moments, having a LeBron James game winner moment makes so much sense. I think
Yeah.
that's a killer use case. It's a 100x improvement on a standard digital playing card. So
Yeah.
I really want to see them win. I don't know.
Oh,
I mean, I know how they fumbled because they just flooded the.
Too
Well,
much. Yeah.
that's exactly it. They found, and I mean, we've talked about it a few times now, but this has been the downfall of every collection they've ever had, right? they've had two like world-changing collections, CryptoKitties and Top Shot, and both they ruined with oversupply, right?
Right.
And I don't understand it with CryptoKitties. Was I look at it as so early, it's experiment. They don't know, right? But it ruined the collection. Made it popular, but that also ruined it, right? So it's like the thing that made it great, but then the thing that ruined it at the same time. But with Top Shot, I mean, like we said, it's hard to pass up because it's like the infinite money glitch, but it ruined the collection. And I mean, from a traditional basketball card collection, I think we've seen cycles of this as well, where Tops would overprint and then they reel it in, and then they overprint and then they reel it in. And maybe it's just that, right? Maybe it's just, hey, we know we're going to have the NBA for the next 2 decades. And we go through these cycles of where when money's good, we overprint, and then we super restrict supply. And, you bought the Caitlin Clark, which was a 1 of 3 or something like that. And, then all of a sudden those generate excitement again. And then I don't know, maybe they just cycle like that.
Yeah. A smart team's going to figure it out. And everything I've seen with them is they are that. So, learn from the past and figure out what works, in this market. And I'm hopeful for them.
Yeah, I don't fade those guys at all,
Yeah.
dude.
By the way, if you want an interesting like market metric, this caught me by surprise earlier in the week. I wrote about it in my newsletter, and as I'm doing that, like sometimes I as I'm just digging for topics, I find something and it strikes me. Total transactions last week, right? It feels like we're back. Like we I think we're all on the same page there, at least on X, right? At least talking to our buddies, all that stuff. But again, market's not really looking like it. But it struck me how low it actually is, like really low. Our sales last week, 75 mil, lowest this year. Goes back further than that. That is our lowest in just about a full calendar year. So, or just about 12 months here. Transactions. That's what got me. 1 million transactions is the lowest since May 2021. So, I mean, if it's felt slow, guys, that's how slow it is. It's like 3+ years a low. It's pretty incredible. So again, if you felt that it's slow, you're not wrong, and the numbers show that too. So keep that in mind. Wow. But then I'll say this, to me, then that just kind of feels bottomish,
Right. What's kind of interesting is we've had we've been shipping at Emblem, so we had some new product updates, but as far as Emblem goes, a lot of historical NFTs sell in Emblem vaults, so we can kind of track their activity back and forth. And historicals have actually been up. They've actually had some of their best couple months in the past month and 2 months. And, CryptoPunk sales have been kind of up too. So this could be the early wave leading into kind of a bigger ripple.
It's usually the sign. It's the CryptoPunks move, the big X copies move. Like we saw another this
X copies have
morning,
been
right?
on a tear for
Yep.
sure. Right?
And then those historic things. I've been like, I do a morning update show, and I go over top sales, and I share my insights. And one of them is historical NFTs moving. That spells a Genesis that traded. I think that was wrapped in an Emblem vault. Was that the first ever? Was that card number 1?
Yeah, it's one of the early ones. The
FD card, yeah.
The first Spells of Genesis card.
Those I like to point those out to people. I just do because those are.
Yeah, I mean, I would
Those
say
are
it's
grails. Those are
people
grails.
generally call it the first gaming asset. So
Wow.
asset in a game. So yeah, it's one of those uber rare high values, and we've seen a ton of them moving. A ton of the FD cards and the Satoshi cards, which are considered the kind of grails of Spells of Genesis, and then obviously a bunch of Nakamoto sales. In rare Pepes, and yeah, I mean, we're definitely in the high end super, 100K plus collectibles. We've seen a bunch of movement, which, maybe the bottom, it's like people are like, oh, I'm out. I want to move on. And then, the true collectors come in and scoop them up. We've definitely seen a lot of that.
Yeah.
Whether that moves, I mean, part of me feels like because we haven't had a real Bitcoin run, when people aren't feeling rich, they don't spend money on either the meme coins or, the NFTs. It's like we haven't had that happen, right? Where we've had just the underlying assets rise. And so I think until we get that, for me, the NFTs really can't come back because everybody feels poor.
Yeah.
But that's just my vibe. I don't know.
That's exactly how I even say it too. And like I like dumb it down like that because it's that simple. It's all about do you feel rich, and when you do, you usually spend a little reckless, and that's when prices get kind of silly, but also awesome. Actually, with that in mind, okay, you got to check me on this. Price predictions on some of the top Bitcoin collections. So I throw these out all the time, and enough people laugh at me for it. But I always throw out OMB, Quantum Cats, Node Monks, Bitcoin Puppets. And my price predictions, I usually say, I really do think these are going to hit maybe 2 Bitcoin, maybe 3. It might sound crazy. And then I do that conversation about V1 punks and would they ever flip crypto punks? And I'm like, no. But also if it happened, it won't shock me entirely. So with that said, I always feel like those collections, like maybe one of them for a brief period of time at top euphoric part of the market, 5 Bitcoin, like maybe. Am I crazy for that?
I think so.
Okay.
Certainly this early. I think so. But I mean, my Bitcoin friends would be like, McBride, how could you say that? But I think so. I think some of this stuff, it just doesn't have the history, and it hasn't gone through a down cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, you look at like the way CryptoPunks worked, like it had to go through, you put in your time, right? It had to go to basically zero again and then come back into a new hype cycle. It feels, and I don't know, I could be wrong, but it feels to me like, Ordinals needs to go through a down cycle and then an up cycle again, to really kind of be clearly the number one NFT way NFTs are stored on Bitcoin. Because there are more than one way to store an NFT on Bitcoin, right? I mean, I think Ordinals is the winner. Certainly indications are that Ordinals will be the winner, but it's not guaranteed. And so part of me feels like it needs to go through a down cycle, but could be wrong. We could have
been down only for a year. They've been down.
Yeah. How much lower do you want to see?
They've been down only for a whole year, Adam.
No, but that is interesting. Like they probably got to earn it a little more. That makes sense. I guess my thought was we got to feel the top of NFTs last cycle. Like we got to see these prices that, I mean, don't make sense, also made sense in the time. So like I get it. The fact that the Ordinals really didn't have that chance yet tells me people can speculate them on those like crazy still. Again, I always talk when I give any prediction, it's the peak euphoric part of the market when it just nothing makes sense. And so for me, that was the reason. I'm like 2, I could see 2. I could see that. I could see 3. Well, again, maybe a few days, but we've not tested those highs yet. And I'm hoping that's this cycle.
Yeah. I mean, I thought we did feel it a bit in Ordinals, last year. I thought we did get that kind of toppy vibe.
Yeah. Amongst 0.9, right? I mean, it ain't cheap.
That was like this toppy vibe. But it was constrained to the kind of Ordinals Bitcoin ecosystem. But that's the way we are now. Like crypto's different now. It's so, it's kind of split a lot more than it was in 21. So yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say. I mean, and part of it, this cycle is just so different, right? It's like Bitcoin could move to 100K, but do you feel richer necessarily because all the money's in the ETFs? And there's this like weird thing happening where, last cycle and obviously up until the ETFs, like if somebody bought Bitcoin, they actually went on Coinbase or whatever and bought Bitcoin, right? Now it's like this weird hands-off thing where I don't know. It's still to be determined, like if this cycle, if that kind of rise in Bitcoin is going to trickle down to these, either alts or underlying assets of meme coins and NFTs and stuff. I don't know, man. Please tell me what's going to happen. I don't know.
No, they're great points. Hey, we're gonna live it and learn it together, I think.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, well, tell us. We can wrap up here. What should people do to follow you, or tell us about your shows and that sort of thing?
Man,
the ecosystem.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, follow us on X CryptoSlam.io. Also, go give. God, I should know this. It's SlamNet XYZ, I believe. Search will probably find it. But also Slam X. Slam XIO is like very near and dear to my heart at this point. Getting, relatively new into making content. Started a year ago of like, man, completely fallen in love with it. I love it. It's like all I do every day. Well, before I maybe used to do a little more technical stuff at CryptoSlam and dabble in BD and stuff. It's, man, at this point, it's just making content. It's a ton of fun. So we do have a daily show over on CryptoSlam. It airs right before this show. So check that out. It's called Chain Reactor. That's on. Actually, I'm going to move it an hour earlier. So it's going to start at 9 a.m. Eastern time. It's Monday through Friday. Having an afternoon show with my brother, Henry the Grape, and my friend Joe. Used to work at VFriends. So that one's a really fun kind of afternoony vibe DGen session. And then personally, I just do daily morning updates over on a channel called Inside NFT. So check those out, follow along, and you'll certainly be hearing much more news from CryptoSlam here shortly.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you. Everybody, if you don't know, we run the show every Tuesday through Thursday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Back next week. But till then, have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you.
That's it. Love seeing you on the timeline. Keep it up, man. And let's have a great weekend. Catch you guys next week.